I think that the most valuable thing that I got about teaching myself nutrition and going on these programs is that eventually the goal is not to track everything. The goal is to develop like intuitive eating. The goal is to not obsess over food and what goes on your plate. The goal is to live life. And you have the awareness and knowing of what is good, what is not good, and like being able to determine yourself and work with yourself about it instead of like going against yourself about it.
All right, we made it. Jana, thank you so much for joining us. This is great. We're just joking about humid Florida weather. Same thing here in Texas. This one's a bit interesting. We're doing it. I'm here still in Austin. Rachel's out, actually close by you in Florida. Well, I don't know how close. Florida's huge. Florida's
I think
massive.
he's about 2 hours away, I think.
Okay. Well, anyways, I came across your I think we found each other on Substack. By the way, becoming one of my favorite new kind of modes, social media, whatever form you want to call it.
I'm so new to it. It's so funny. I'm trying
It's
so hard.
yeah, it's so new. It's so interesting. It's like an alternative form of social media. You know, it's different from TikTok and Facebook and Instagram, all those other forms where people just kind of post to just get content out or do silly kind of videos. It feels more
Right.
real to me. People post like real helpful stuff. And I came across your profile on health and wellness, nutrition, and working out. And Rachel and I are both very passionate about that. Our podcast ranges in topics, but we are
I
also
saw that.
very, yeah, we're also very personally conscious of health and wellness and working out, exercising, eating right. There was a health and wellness summit out here in Austin a couple weeks ago we went to, and we're kind of fangirling out and kind of some of the latest and greatest stuff. So, yeah, welcome. Really nice to have you. We have a list of questions, things we want to chat about, but please introduce yourself. Anything you think we should know, we'd love to hear it.
Sure. I mean, I can give you a little bit of a background, I guess. So again, my name is Jana, and I own a business called Rise Health Coaching. And I have I've been nutrition coaching for the last 5 years, and I actually co-own a CrossFit gym. That's sort of how I got into the nutrition coaching. I have been an entrepreneur pretty much since I left college. So I also still own a high-end real estate company that is in the town that I live in. But I have a background in sports. So I played soccer my whole life, even into college. And I am older, let's say. So I didn't really see where I could take that career wise. And after college, I got my real estate license, went into that, my degrees in finance and international business originally, actually. So, and I really liked doing that for a long time. But in quarantine, the gym I attended, the owners decided to sell it. And so I took advantage of an opportunity and I bought it. But my big passion
Nice.
for it is really the nutrition and health portion of it, not just the training. I do personally train all the time and I train several teenagers, but I really am into the nutrition portion of it. So I've had to kind of go backwards educationally a little bit in order to create a foundation for that, which is what I've done over the course of the last 5 years. And then I just launched my own podcast in order to go along with the health coaching business. So that's how you found me too.
Love that. Good for you. Hopefully this is some good
Thanks.
practice.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, great. So let's jump into it because this is something
Sure.
for me. Obviously, Rachel, jump in whenever you feel comfortable. But like one of my questions, and I find this on my own journey. I'm sure you find this
Mhm.
with your clients, people you run into. Um, like anyone who's, let's say, trying to eat healthier, eat right. It's a process, right? Like there's a
Right.
transition process. You're starting from something, whether it's like a habit that you formed eating a certain type of food, maybe it's out of a convenience factor, the way we grow up. There's so many different variables that play into why we eat what we eat. But like in
Mhm.
that transition from, let's say I want to eat healthier, I want to lose weight, I want to get in shape. Some people just, and myself included, have found it so difficult to go from what we've eaten to healthier food. And
Mhm.
I'm just curious why you think it's so difficult for us to do that.
So I think one, it's not just you. I mean, anytime I've made a big change, it's been difficult for me at first. I think change in and of itself is hard. It's uncomfortable because we try to stay in a state of homeostasis. We try to stay with what we're used to, right? So anything that kind of goes against that sort of makes us uncomfortable. So it's really easy for us to stay in certain patterns because there's no decision making process that goes into it. Once we decide to make a change, we have to consciously think about it. We have to plan for it. We have to make different choices and we have to actually make decisions again, which can be tiring or a stressor in and of itself. I think the reason why people find it so hard at first is that because the majority of people, one, I think aren't sometimes completely aligned with the why of what they're doing. And then the other thing is because I think people try too many things at one time. So everybody, I think, at the beginning of the year goes, all right, this is my year. I'm throwing out everything in my house that looks like junk food. I'm going to work out every day. I'm only going to drink water. I'm never going to drink again, all this kind of stuff. And it's just not, if that's not even close to what you're doing before, I mean, that's going to last for about 72 hours.
Yeah.
So I think then people get frustrated because they can't keep up with the thing they have set because the reality is what they set out to do is too big. So that would be my initial takeaway with most people is that they try too many things at once.
Yeah, it's a good point. I find that too in some of my coaching practice and my own life, right? It's like you have a list of
Mhm.
things you want to change, and for lack of a better term, or ironically, you bite off more than you can chew,
For
and it
sure.
becomes demotivating because you're like, "Oh, I want to change all these things." You have a list of 5, 10 things, and maybe you get 1 or 2 of them, but you keep telling yourself in your mind, "I'm not doing well enough. This isn't enough. I'm not, good enough." And then
Exactly.
you just follow that cycle and you kind of quit, which actually kind of leads me into, I think, one of your Substack articles that I really enjoyed too. I think you posted a lot about there are a few reasons why people kind of quit too early, I think was the concept of the post. But you had one point, which was that we rely too much on motivation. So I'm curious, like, what your advice is, or folks who are trying to institute better habits and trying to eat healthier or work out more, whatever kind of the goal is. Like, what is something that they can do to maintain their progress, to actually focus on consistency and not give up too early? And sounds like we have to kind of replace something with that motivation that we're relying too much on.
Yeah, for sure. I think that I'm a big fan of the term momentum versus motivation because I think you're going to get up several days and you're going to feel super pumped about the idea of changing something or bettering your life. But the reality is, any change that's sustainable or is really actually impactful takes a long time. So there's going to be several days that whatever change you implement doesn't really show you a result yet, right? So you have to be able to keep doing it even though you're not actually seeing the outcome yet. And that's really where discipline comes in because you're doing it when you don't want to. You're doing it when you don't see the results. But here's what I have found. I have found that for the majority of people, especially people who, like we talked about before, bit off more they can chew. And it's funny how often I've used that pun for nutrition coaching. Can't even tell you. um, but what I find is that when people add one habit at a time and they stick with it, the feeling of self confidence that it gives them that they didn't quit on themselves allows them to then add a subsequent healthy habit or implement something else. So then they start to build momentum of the things that they add, right? So maybe they start off the first week by trying to get a walk in 5 days a week, right? And like they're so pumped by the end of the week that they actually made it because they've never committed to anything and stuck with it, that by the next week they're ready to be like, okay, now what else can I do? And now you're like, all right, let's add the 60 ounces of water a day or whatever it is. And so then if you're adding little bits at a time, it allows that little habit that takes only a little bit of time to become part of their daily life before they then add something else. And then that makes them feel good because they were able to do the task they were given. So it's the pat on the back that really sets them up to add the next step.
I really like that. That hits home. That resonates for me. I don't know how you feel about it, Rachel, but yeah, I mean, confidence, right? It's literally the Latin root, like trusting yourself, trust in yourself.
Exactly.
So if you're telling yourself I'm going to do something, if we say too much, we're just falling down that cyclical pattern of not trusting ourselves. Then we lose confidence. We don't continue. And it's I think it's the combination of a couple of things, right? It's like, one, you're doing what you said you were going to do, which feels amazing, and it gives you motivation to continue. But then you're also doing that thing that's good for you, which initially was difficult and was uncomfortable, but now that you're doing it, you feel better. Great example. Let's say you had a new routine or habit you want to form of like exercising first thing in the morning, or cold. I just added cold plunge recently. I've been trying to add it. I did it like
Ooh,
on
how do
and
you
off for
like
months
it?
and months and months. Life changing. It really is life changing. But it's like one additional thing I made added to my routine. And
Mhm.
yes, it feels good that I added something, and I can now trust myself when I say I'm going to add something, but also I get
Mhm.
the benefits of the actual cold plunge, which is like
Correct.
immunity boost, dopamine boost, all these things. So yeah, I think it's both of those things. And I don't know if Rachel, if you've got a follow up, but I've got something I wanted to ask, kind of piggybacking that.
Yeah, go ahead, ask.
Just like I think when people first get into this, right? And actually, we had a little snafu, not snafu, I don't know what to call it, when we were setting up this podcast. So like
Oh, yeah.
hooking up wires, getting the right memory card, like figuring out because we're doing this like remotely, kind of for the first time, all three of us.
Mhm.
So going into this, we could have had the mentality of like, man, like we've never done this before. We don't know what we're doing. Maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we should kind of wait until it's perfect. You could kind of get in your own head and say, oh, we didn't have the wires. We didn't have the memory. I mean, there's all these things you could say to yourself that could
Mm.
potentially hold you back from getting started. And you had a post, I think it was Instagram, if I'm not mistaken,
Hmm.
but about perfection just holding us back, and the
Oh, yeah.
feeling that we want to do things right before we get started. And I think it's not just about trying to create the habits and the routine and the food and the nutrition, the exercise, all those things in your life that would be good for you. It's sort of like we don't even want to get to that. We don't even want to create that because we're so afraid of what that might mean if we couldn't fulfill that to our expectations. Like we have such high
Right.
standards and expectations of ourselves. So I'm just curious what your solution, if there is one, if not, totally cool, but like what your methodology is to try to get through that initial like stumbling block of being afraid to mess up, to fail, to learn. I think that's a stumbling block for a lot of people before they do something they really care about.
I mean, I think I had to really learn, especially when I bought the gym 5 years ago and started nutrition coaching, that it's the first time in a long time I had been a beginner at anything again, right? I've owned the real estate business for a long time. It's fairly successful at it. I use my Instagram platform to build that visual content for it. So having to start over with something kind of interesting for me to be a beginner, and I was 41, I think, when I bought it. I'm 46 now, so I think that's right. So it's kind of interesting to be a beginner, right? You don't want to have people see you fail. And that kind of held me back a little bit at first, for sure. Like to put myself out there to try. It's hard to get new clients for nutrition at first because it's hard to have people see you in a different light, right? But I think there's a couple of things to think about there. I think one, if you are concerned that perfection is a reason that's holding you back, I think you really need to sit back and think about why you want to do the thing first off. Because if this is a tool for you to use to procrastinate, it's also possible that you're just not totally aligned with the idea that you want to accomplish, right? It could be that you think you should do it, but it's not necessarily something that you want to do. So you're using the fact that you don't know how to do something or that you don't have like all the stars haven't aligned yet to kind of get out of it. So I think you have to kind of dig deep there first off. And then the other thing is, I mean, I honestly, even though I'm very type A, I'm the kind of person that will like rewrite a list of to do things if I don't like the way it looks. But I do also firmly believe that if you're not putting yourself out there, if you're not trying and learning new things, you're not learning anything. And I mean, life is short to a point. Do you really want to not get anywhere other than where you are right now? I mean, you could be the best place ever. Like, I'm super happy I like my job or whatever, but like, this isn't the only thing I want to learn or the only thing that I want to do, or these are the only people that I want to help. So, in order to expand that, you got to throw yourself out there. You can't sit on the bench and wait too long. So, I mean, I think my last takeaway of that too is if you're really worried about failing, no one's paying that much attention. No one's as worried about you as they're worried about themselves. So just do it anyways.
Well, I mean, I'd say like, yeah, that's one of the
There's several things there I realized I kind of delved into several different things. And honestly, when I wrote that Instagram post, that was for me. I had sat on the idea of this podcast for like a while, goofing around with like trying to figure out which platform to use and do I need this microphone and all of this stuff or whatever. And I'm like, just rip the band-aid off.
Mm, that's
So
great.
that
That's
was
a
for
good
me as
point.
much as for everybody else. So
Yeah. No, I think that's really valuable. I think honestly, that's one of the reasons I admire you so much because also you're just in so many fields, right? You got health and wellness and fitness and nutrition and real estate too. So like it just becomes like I think a decision you have to make about being willing to kind of expand your zone of tolerance, right? Your window of tolerance, like what things feel comfortable. And I think we kind of get addicted to this feeling of, oh, I feel safe, I feel comfortable, I feel good.
right.
And that's really difficult when you match that up with an ambitious personality or someone who wants change, right? Like, I'm of the belief that a lot of us come to change after a certain amount of time because we get sick and tired of where we're at, like the current position. We get exhausted with it, we get depressed by it, we get anxious with it, or we get fed up with it. Like, there's so much pain from staying where you are. But unfortunately, we all have different like levels of tolerance with that. Some of us can take a
For
lot of
sure.
that. So it just may take
Mhm.
more time, more pain, more pressure to kind of make the change. But it's an age old quote, right? It's like the pain of progressing and failing and learning versus the pain of staying where you are. You have to kind of balance those two. So, Rachel, sorry, I know I'm taking a lot. Any thoughts you have?
Yes, Jenna, I'm super curious about what got you into nutrition. What's your passion around? What's your mission?
So like I said, when I bought the gym, it was an opportunity that just sort of arose. And I decided that I had ironically started taking a nutrition course through Precision Nutrition before the idea of the gym even came up. So even though I was doing real estate full time, I was a pretty avid long distance runner. I used to run about, this is not even an exaggeration, but it sounds ridiculous now when I say it, like 30 to 40 races a year. Like anywhere from
Wow.
like 5K to half marathons. Most of them were like 10Ks, and I have ran one whole marathon. But I always felt like, even though I played sports when I was younger, that nutrition was the thing I didn't really know anything about. Like I said, I'm just old enough to have like been before they made you weightlift for all sports, before your team came with a nutritionist, that kind of stuff. When I checked in for preseason as a freshman in college, I only weighed about 110 pounds, which I weigh a decent amount more than that now. And this is or not about weight, for example, but when you go to practice 3 times a day, it's really hard to keep that weight on. And all they cared about was you can't lose any more weight. So they were just pumping me full of like protein shakes. And that was just the information that was available at the time. I'm not necessarily trying to malign them or whatever. And I just thought there's got to be such a much better way to do this. And then not just for athletes, just for everybody. So I think that's been the thing that I've been the most drawn to because I think it makes the longer impact. I love to move. Like I said, I've been an athlete my whole life. I love it. But at the same time, the movement that we do throughout the course of our day or the planned workout is usually an hour or maybe 2 hours of our actual day. The rest of the day, how do we take care of ourselves? And so that's really kind of how I got interested in the nutrition coaching. And then I'm currently going through health coaching certification, which I'm almost done with, fingers crossed. Which will
Amazing.
add, it's been so many things, which will add so many other components to people's health that I can help them with. So it makes me really happy to be able to expand that knowledge base.
Yeah, beautiful. And just out of curiosity, what do you suggest someone that they're like coming to you and they're like, I want to eat healthier, I want to lose fat. What should I do? Do you build a meal plan? Do you give them macros, nutrients? Like how do you go about it?
That's a it's funny, that's a really good question, and not a lot of people think to ask me that, so I'm glad you did. It honestly depends. So, one of the first things I actually do is I actually kind of interview the person that comes into me because I need to see how familiar they are or how educated they are on nutrition. Counting macros is a very basic way to do it, so it's easy to follow. But at the same time, if somebody has never measured their food, if they don't know that a sweet potato is a carbohydrate, it's not really going to make any difference if I tell them they have 3 buckets of food they can fill, and that's how it works. So it really depends. I have kind of an interview process I do for my first intake interview, and it goes through things like that. Like, what are things you've tried in the past? What are things that have failed for you? What does your lifestyle look like now? Do you work third shift? That's also something that kind of comes into play because maybe you know this or you don't, but how you sleep really affects your ability to lose fat and actually have muscle recovery. So if you've got somebody that works the third shift, unless they're sleeping during the day, which they're usually not because they usually have kids or something else they have to do. All those things have to kind of be taken into account also as far as any food allergies, those kinds of things. And then the psychological questions about food. Do they feel bad when they eat certain things? Do they mentally beat themselves up? Because to go back to the thing we talked about before, I don't want to give them too many things to work on that they can't reasonably accomplish. And then they become a mental or emotional failure yet again, then I have done them an even worse disservice than by not helping them lose weight to begin with. So it has to be something that works with them. So I do currently right now, to answer your question, I have some clients that count macros. I have some that are strictly on habit modification. I've got some people who are really working on improving their gut microbiome and fiber intake because she has PCOS and we're trying to work on her insulin levels. So we've got kind of a lot of things going on. So the method is really dictated by the knowledge base of the client when they come to me. I want to meet them where they are.
That's really good. And I really like the habit stacking program. And I think that a lot of
Thanks.
people fail because they go, for example, me in my past, I would pay like a online coach that does, if they give you your workouts, they give you your macros, they give you everything. And like
Mhm.
all of a sudden you need to change so many things all at once, including like a list of supplements. And then you start, it can be sustainable for maybe 1 month, and then you start
Mhm.
dropping off. You know what I mean? So yeah,
Right. And then the other thing with like when people get a big list of supplements or they start taking a supplement, it's hard to tell if it works because if you start taking 4 or 5 of them at a time, you don't know what is the reaction or the change coming from specifically. So then, people always want, and I get it. I'm not patient at all by nature. People always want like a big change right away. But the truth is for something to be sustainable and really become part of your lifestyle, it takes a while to figure out how it kind of is going to work for you on a
yeah.
day-to-day basis.
I think around, I think for me in my journey, it's been around 3 months of being very consistent to start seeing the changes in my body. And I think that if someone can be patient those 3 months and really hold on and like push even without motivation, I think that like the minute you see the change that you are looking for, even a slight change, you get so motivated. You're like, oh yes. And really think that that really creates the momentum and really helps.
It's really funny with my nutrition coaching clients specifically, 3 month is the minimum package for that exact reason. Because, we want to create something that they can use forever. I mean, I could just starve them, sure, but like that's not gonna be fun for anybody. And then it's not gonna be realistic when their lifestyle, they're gonna go to a kid's birthday party and eat a cupcake and then cry, which is not what we want to happen, obviously. So it's funny that that's your time frame because that's what I've sort of ascertained with people too is that that's about the time frame where they really start to feel different, and it's worth it for them.
Yeah,
Mm.
totally. I think that a lot of the let's call it the issues that people stumble on are more on the emotional side. It's more like I think we fail these things like holding on to a diet as a lifestyle. It's emotions, man. Like I can be
Mhm,
sad, I can feel deprived of like, like I'm restricting myself. So I want to eat the sweets. I want to eat like I want to
mhm.
be bad sometimes. And it's a lot more than like just someone building you a plan and just following the plan. Like there's so many levels to it, layers. So I think it's very important what you're doing, which is to do it gradually and not to starve people. And yeah,
100%. I heard this is not my original ideas, and I can't remember who to give credit for it to, but I never liked the idea of saying that, a food in and of itself was bad. So I like the idea of you have everyday food and sometimes foods. So sometimes a brownie's great.
That's a cool term.
A brownie for breakfast every day is not a good idea.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you can now make like cheesecake from cottage cheese, or you can make a
Oh my
pudding
gosh,
from
cottage
cottage
cheese is
cheese.
having like a whole glow up this year. The last year, it's like the cauliflower of 2 years ago.
This is the
Yes.
year of cottage cheese.
I know it's kind of crazy, and I mean, I
Yeah.
do actually like cottage cheese, but I didn't realize how many things that you could sneak it into.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of been my issue too, and I think, like, for a lot of folks, I don't I maybe it's an emotional thing for me, I'm not sure, but, like, the whole calorie counting and focusing on the macros and all that, like, I like to have a goal or a target, but I think the concept for me of, like, okay, and I gotta plan every meal, and I can only eat this, and I have to eat this certain amount of it just felt like it always felt very restrictive to me, and I liked having the idea of, like, I guess the concept for me was like everything in moderation, right? Like I
Right.
feel good if I can balance the day. I have a general concept of the calories I'm intaking, I have a general concept of the amount of protein. I'm maybe a little bit more on the upper end, like above average in terms of concern with the amount of protein and caloric intake that I have for sure. But do you ever find like is that an issue you run across? Like I don't I
Yeah,
think
people
when
can get
people enter
hyper
this,
fixated.
yeah, when people enter this, like you can really go to the extreme with it, right? And you see the either a bodybuilder, I don't know, certain people that have and there's no judgment for this, like it works amazing, but you like Tupperware, right, for every meal,
Yeah,
like you
I
know
knew you were
exactly
gonna
what,
say that too. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Be
and
like
like
at a
She's saying
restaurant with
it in
somebody
my
and you like get
house.
them out of their bag. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And you're like, did you bring that here? And you're, yeah.
right, it's like a prep thing, and you'd be like, "Okay," in your
Mhm.
head, if I know that I'm consuming this, so that helps me with my goals, right? Like, okay, if I'm eating this,
Right.
that means I know how much I need to work out, or I know this and that, and it just helps kind of do that, but yeah, then I think at the end of that extreme, it becomes like a lifestyle, and I don't know, like, is your argument, is that kinda what it has to be? Does it kinda have to be a different lifestyle to be effective?
I mean, it sort of depends, right? So, like, for somebody that's a competitive bodybuilder, they have a different lifestyle than somebody that is just trying to be healthy enough to not have a hip replacement or want to play with their kids or want to like run a 5K occasionally and, not huff and puff going up the stairs. Like, or have a nice looking physique. There's a difference between that and a
Right.
bodybuilder, right? So, there's a couple things, right? That's a lifestyle they chose. So, as much as it can look extremely neurotic, that's their goal. So, it's one of those things where it's like you have to be flexible, I guess, in your mentality about it. But to go back to the thing we said before, where I told Rachel about the intake thing, that's one of the things I try to ascertain in the intake process, right? Like, how neurotic is somebody going to get, or how hyper fixated is somebody going to get on being very strict? And I have had clients who I have given macros to and they will, let's say, they'll save all of them to blow at like a birthday dinner and starve themselves all day. And I'm like, that's not like the idea of like counting macros is supposed to be, you've probably seen it other places called like flexible dieting. Because the reality is, as long as the food fits inside of the macros, you can have it. Now, where that kind of messes you up is sure, if you have 200 grams of carbs a day, you can eat a cupcake, but you will have wasted more than half a day on that cupcake, and so then that's it, right? So
Yeah, and I also understand it's like the order of eating too, right? I mean, you wanna go for like
right,
greens, protein, carbs, right? There's an order to it, which helps reduce the blood sugar spike in the next 2, 3 hours, right? Which has a whole downstream
correct,
impact, so,
correct. So there's
yeah.
like I said, so it comes into first play, it comes into how educated somebody is first. So, like, if I have somebody that comes in and they currently only really drink soda, they drink diet soda because, that's better for them. I've been told that numerous times. They drink diet so they switch to diet sodas, that's the first choice they make, but they weigh I had a client that was like this in the past. He weighed about 280 pounds, I think. He wanted to lose about 50 pounds. He mostly ate TV dinners. Vegetables were like non-existent. So giving him macros is not the first thing I would do, right? Like the first thing we need to do is drink some water, add some foods in. So I think that there's a couple different ways you can look at it. Sometimes people need to add things, not take things away. um, Also, people need to realize that what you need. A lot of my coaching is education about foods that are more nutrient dense than others. Like, sure, a 2 scoops of protein powder has about the same amount of protein as a chicken breast, but there's a big difference nutritionally in how your body uses those two things. Yes, for protein, that's fine, but there's no a chicken breast actually has tryptophan, or a turkey breast has tryptophan, which is an electrolyte. It helps you sleep. Your body also has to chew that food. It has to break it down. It burns more calories to actually process it into what it needs to be. Rather, the protein powder is pretty much already easily digestible. So there's several things to go into. To your point, do I think that you have to count your food all the time? No, but pretty much everybody I have that comes in that starts off with a weight loss goal or sometimes a hormonal issue, I pretty much start all of them with at least writing their food down. Even if we don't change anything at first, we
Yeah.
start with logging because oftentimes they're very unaware of the portion sizes of things or the nutrients they are missing or the macros they don't get or get too much of. So we always start with that because awareness, them consciously being aware is better than me just telling them, right? So them coming to the own conclusion, they're like, oh my God, I ate way too much fat today, that kind of thing. And then being able to educate them on what they actually need for their goals, what's a good amount, what fats are better, those kinds of things. It gives us a starting point where it's a process we're then working at together rather than me just going, here, follow this meal plan. Especially if you don't eat any of these foods normally, this is going to be really hard for you. So,
Right. Man, that's a really good parallel to I feel like every other episode we have on this podcast, which is becoming aware, right? Like awareness is the first
yes.
step.
Right.
What are you
Yeah.
doing? What are you eating? What's your goal? And then you figure out, okay,
Mhm.
well, how am I going to get there? What changes do I need to make?
Yeah, I wanted to add that, like for me, I started my fitness journey, like nutrition wise. I got a meal plan and it was really depressing. So I would do it.
Chicken and broccoli. Chicken and broccoli. That's what everybody
Yes.
tells me.
And I would do it. And then I would go get checked up every week, I think. And
Hmm.
after like leaving the office, I would just go to a supermarket and buy chocolate and eat it because I thought
Yes. Because
I
you were
thought
sad.
yeah, I was like, okay, from here to next week it won't matter. And then
Oh, that's so funny.
yeah, and then after that I started doing the flexible diet, which was really
Hmm.
cool. And I did abuse it. Like I did eat cupcakes and chocolates and stuff. But then I was like, okay, like all of this is not sustainable. I'm trying to reach to a point where I look the way I want to look,
Hmm.
right? My body is fit or whatever. And then I can stop with this horrific diet. All of the diets. And I think that the most valuable thing that I got about teaching myself nutrition and going on these programs is that eventually the goal is not to track everything. The goal is to develop like intuitive eating. The goal is to not obsess over food and what goes on your plate. The goal is to live life. And you have the awareness and knowing of what is good, what is not good, and being able to determine yourself and work with yourself about it instead of like going against yourself about it.
Yeah, it shouldn't be this fight where at the end of the day you're super unhappy. Like, don't get me wrong, if your goal is to lose weight and you are going to be in a calorie deficit, regardless of what any TikTok video tells you, it is a numbers game to a point. Your calories in and calories out is going to dictate your overall weight. The composition of those calories is what's going to dictate your body composition to a point, right? So, if your majority of your diet consists of fat, you're not gonna be able to build muscle mass, that kind of thing, whatever. But at the same time, like I said, if you're in a calorie deficit, at first you're going to be uncomfortable. You're gonna be eating things that you don't like at first. You're going to be slightly uncomfortable. But the goal isn't to stay in that space forever, obviously. The goal is to get to a point and figure out what changes you can make that are realistic and don't make you sad so that you can stay in that general area more or less. Because theoretically, people don't usually want to lose weight just to lose weight. They want to lose weight because they want to feel better. They want to be able to do other things. They want to be healthier. So then once they get to that point and they can see those long-term goals within sight, it should be easier to make the better choices theoretically.
Yeah, and I think that if you spend a bunch of time weighing your food, you can kind of already eyeball it, and you can go by
Exactly.
the principle of okay, most of my plate should be protein, and then I need fibers. So here are some veggies, and here is approximately 100 grams of rice. So the idea is to not obsess, not to be fixated, just live life and just have like teach yourself nutrition. It's very important.
Yeah, like you'll never see me, at least I say never right now. You'll never see me post an entire like this is what I ate today. Like I will post pictures of meals, that kind of stuff for ideas, but nutrition is so incredibly individual. You don't know what people are working on at the time. You don't know how tall I am, how much I weigh, what my goals are, what my current body fat percentage is, that kind of stuff. So I usually try not to do things like that. When you sent me some of the questions just when I asked like what we were going to talk about, one of them said macros on it, and I didn't know if you were going to ask me if I personally count macros.
Do
And
you?
I have. So I have. When I had a very I was trying very hard several years ago to change my body composition, to lose fat while maintaining muscle mass. And I also found, as I find with almost every woman specifically who comes to me for nutrition coaching, that I didn't eat nearly the amount of protein that I needed. So I was running about 20 to 25 miles a week, going to CrossFit 3 times a week, and playing beach volleyball on the weekends, and eating like maybe 50 grams of protein, like throughout the course of the day. Like it was really bad, actually. Once I go back and look at it now in my head, and it's like so cringy. So I didn't really know, right? So now I know that if I'm not careful, I will not eat enough. So the only thing I really try to do is I try to hit a protein goal. I have a certain amount of like, I count my protein macros. That's it, pretty much. But I also find that works for me. So to Jonathan's point, so I've had other people use that once they get to relatively within maintenance, or if it's at the very beginning and we're just working on their protein, it has a tendency to um forget how to say this exactly, bring in another method of nutrition coaching, which is called crowding out. If
Mm,
somebody doesn't usually eat a lot of protein and I give them a protein goal specifically, it can crowd out their ability to eat other things that they don't necessarily need. So it gives them something to
mm,
focus on. It also, protein is something that you know that if you eat actual protein, like not supplements or whatever, it's filling. So if you eat that first, like off of your plate, maybe you don't get to the mashed potatoes. Maybe you don't get to fries, those kinds of things. So it also works as a strategy from that perspective as well. So that's what I typically work on. It's just trying to make sure I get enough protein.
yeah, I'm like you too. I think I focus very much on protein lately, just understand the impact. I got turned on to what's it called? Perfect Aminos. You know that really cool supplement. I think Gary Brecka pushes it. I think it's by Body Health, if I'm not mistaken.
That does sound right. Yeah.
Yeah, but I just I realize my protein intake's way less than kind of what it's supposed to be. Like, so my goal, for example, is my target weight, which is like 160, for example. And a lot of the literature out there says you want to take as many grams of protein as your target ideal body weight. So like to
That's what I
get
would have told you too.
yeah, to get anywhere close to that, like 150, 160 grams of protein, like it is hard. Isn't that
So I try to hit 140, which is a little over what I weigh.
yeah. I mean,
I weigh about 135. And yeah, I have to actually like mentally plan for it, which keeps me from making some other bad choices to be fair. Because like right now, for example, we have some quite large muffins in the house because I have 2 kids and they are 90 and 105 pounds, but they like each, obviously. But they are 5'7" and 5'9". Okay. So I'm like, eat the muffin, it's fine.
Wow, you're taller
But
than
I'm
me.
trying not to eat the muffin.
that's funny. Yeah.
So
I think it, like you said, the goal, right, for it works differently for everyone. Like for me, if you tell me, okay, Jonathan, here's your goal, you have to eat 150 grams of protein a day or something, you have to plan that out. Like it's
yeah,
hard to eat a lot of
I'm
other
not gonna eat it
things.
by accident. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's I don't know, but that works for me, but it's different for other people.
To Rachel's point, I try to the other thing I factor in is the fiber, especially like especially as I've gotten older. It has a lot to do with your hormone levels and all that kind of stuff and staying full. So protein and fiber are the two I really pay attention to. And then I've had people ask me about like, do you eat red meat? So I not fully anemic, but I'm close to being anemic. So I have to watch my iron intake. So I do eat red meat. That's some other question from the
Oh yeah.
a vegan's probably going to come at me somewhere, but there you go.
It's
No.
okay. Honestly, since that plan I was on, that I did a meal plan and it was all chicken
Mhm.
breast. I don't eat
Yeah.
chicken breast at all. I can't look at it, can't touch it. I only
You
eat red
know,
meat, like literally.
I
That's
had a
sad.
client who had been a bodybuilding coach or sorry, had been a bodybuilder for a long time, and she's like, "I'm gonna grow feathers if we eat any more chicken," and I was like, "So sorry for you."
And that's also a myth. That's also a myth that people need to like detach from. That you don't need to eat chicken breast and broccoli to lose fat. You can eat
I
other
didn't
proteins like
you can also yeah, exactly. I also didn't realize until so my brother lives in London, and, my sister went to school in the Netherlands also. I didn't realize until probably about 10 years ago that people in other countries don't refer to chicken as meat.
Mm,
It's just its own category,
chicken.
it's poultry. So meat is just like lamb and beef, or
right.
I guess bison or wherever you possibly are. I don't know what goat would be, but yeah. Where are you from?
Israel.
Okay. So yeah, I didn't realize that until I don't know, maybe about 10 years ago. So to your point, you don't even eat like bodybuilders don't even eat meat. They just eat poultry.
Yeah. So Jana, we are a spiritual kind of spiritual and self-development podcast, and I'm just curious, what is your guiding force? Like, what is it in life that you're like you feel like is your mission? What is what's happening in here when you're doing everything?
I really feel like my mission is to be a resource to help other people live better lives, to not feel like that they are stuck where they currently are. There is always some place that you can, this is where the name of my business came from. There's always some other place that you can rise to. You don't have to accept where you are. I think that we all have more in us than we think that we are actually capable of, and it just takes being in the right environment to bring it out. So I hope that with the message and information I put out there, that that's my goal, is to help be that for somebody else, be that impetus to start or a place to go for a question.
Yeah, it's really nice. I think like part of the coaching world, right? And I'm sure you run into this, but it's you've got to find what resonates with the person, right? So communication is only as valuable as what's being received, right? So we can say something 1,000 different ways, but it's how the person takes it and what works for them. And so it's such a, these
Mhm.
things are so unique, right? I'm sure when you talk to someone, what they need, what they understand, and what their level of awareness and all that. So um I'm curious to get your take. I don't know. I've got one last question, but my thought is, there's so many of these trends going around. I'm big on
Mhm.
having a healthy, intentional daily routine. There's a lot of things that I do and I take very intensely, maybe more so than the average person. But for me, I mean, I meditate twice daily, I journal twice daily, I get my sauna, I get my cold plunge, I get my grounding, I get my nature time, I get my 32 ounces of water, lemon water with all these other mineral salts and stuff
Mhm.
in there. So I take some of that really seriously. I'm just, we see what was the trend recently? It's that guy who like dumps his face in the water
In the
bucket.
cold water?
Yeah, the cold
I don't know
water
what that
thing.
guy's
So
name is, but
there's
I
like
know what you're
there's
talking about, yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of these things and I do a lot of them, but
Mhm.
I'm curious, do you focus and like do you have your own personal, if you're willing to share with us, and then if not your own personal, like with your clients, like what you share is like, hey, these are good things. Let's say you were working with someone or you yourself, you're at a point where you have the capacity, awareness, and desire to create a very intentional life with a lot of these health and wellness routines. Like, what are some of those staples that you have or you'd advocate for?
Sure. So I do go through the practice with a lot of clients of doing the exercise of creating a morning routine. A lot of them it's creating a sleep routine, to be honest, because I find that I have a lot of clients that are very bad, sorry, very bad with their nighttime routine or habits. So this does get done on both ends of the spectrum. So I usually, like I said, it always starts with lifestyle questions for them, what their work schedule is, what they feel they need to work on, what's relaxing for them. As far as for me, so I have two kids, as I mentioned before. And during the school year, they are on somewhat different schedules because one is in middle school and one is in high school. And the way it works here is those two schools start 2 hours apart.
Interesting.
So my daughter leaves or goes to school at 6:30 in the morning, 6:35 in the morning. Okay. Right, which before about the gym, I would have told you well, and I used to run at that time, it was nighttime, but still, like, um, so quite early, and then my son doesn't go until a little after 9, so it's like a much or right before 9,
Wow.
so it's a much different thing. So for me, I tried to decide that, I wanted to be with them in the morning, obviously, so I do get up with her even though she sometimes says a solid amount of 6 words to me in that time period, but, she's 16, so that's kinda how that works. But I get up with her, get her ready, do all that kind of stuff, whatever. And then as far as things for me, I always start out with water in the morning. I used to always start out with coffee, and I realized how bad that was for my gut health, for my cortisol levels, for everything. So now I'm not allowed to have it at first. So I always start out with some water. Sometimes it has lemon in it if I have it readily available, but I always start out with 20 ounces of water. And then I actually drink bone broth in the morning, which I'm sure some people find quite ridiculous. But there's so many studies about how good it is to get protein in before you have any caffeine, and I'm just not particularly hungry right away in the morning, so it's water, then bone broth, and then I go for a walk almost every morning for about 30 minutes. I really think it mentally helps me set myself up for the day. I don't feel like I'm being just sort of slingshotted into my day right out of the gate. Um, one child is gone, nobody else is even awake, so it's perfect. I sometimes take the dogs, that kind of thing, and then I come back and I spend 30 minutes just planning out what my day is gonna look like. I like to write down a gratitude thing, the good thing that happened the day before, because I really think that if you focus on positivity, you'll see more positivity. I heard somebody say on a podcast once that if I ask you to name everything in the room that you are in that's blue, you will stretch to find everything, right? So, like, sometimes the thing might be teal and you'll still tell me the thing because you are looking for it. I feel the same way about, like, blessings or positivity or good things that happen. So I try to write a couple of those down and then really have my day planned out so that I'm not stressed out. And then the other guy gets up and feed him, send him off to school, and then pretty much I head to the gym after that. So that's about it. I work out 5 days a week, but I walk every day.
I
Sometimes
love that.
twice a day. I
Yeah.
like to be outside. I like to be outside when the sun rises, particularly. I didn't know that I did, and it's something that sort of came organically. I just started walking because I like to move, and I really like being outside when the sun comes up. I feel like it sort of sets me up to sleep better at night because I'm on that schedule.
I love that too. Yeah. Our routines sound really similar. I agree. I think for me, the morning walk, actually I do 2 a day. I do like an hour in the morning, an hour in the evening. But for
Yeah,
me,
I do that a lot.
the morning one really wakes me up. Like it just gets me thinking about the
Mhm.
day. I create my plan.
For
It
sure.
gets the juices flowing. So,
And again, it's something I did for myself, right? So that
yeah.
sets me up at like, oh, I did something for me already. Now I can do stuff for other people. So
Yeah. It's a self care task.
for sure.
Rachel, anything else top of mind for you want to ask about?
Question. I always shove a personal question so I can get something out of it. um, what would you suggest someone in their 30s that have a lot of like pimples, like around the time of the cycle, nutrition wise?
So I guess it depends on a couple of things, right? So depends on how much water they're already drinking. So I'd obviously start with that. There's lots of things you can do as far as trying an anti-inflammatory diet where you start taking out certain foods to see which one affects you. It can be even more boring than the meal plan that you were on before, but if you do it for 30 days, then you can sort of start adding things back in. So like you'll take out dairy, you'll take out gluten, you'll take out alcohol, but in little phases at a time so you can see what might possibly be triggering because oftentimes, like, say you do those food sensitivity tests or hormone level tests or whatever, it may not show up at the time that you have the test done. So, for example, I had somebody that had a lot of that happen, and it turned out that they had a pretty bad dairy sensitivity, but they went to have that checked when they were not on their period or at a different part of their cycle, and it didn't really match up with the symptoms they were seeing at that particular time of the month or when they had PMS or right before their menstrual cycle. So, if you can take things out a little bit at a time and really keep a food journal, how you feel, how it looks, take progress pictures, and then add things back in. I even did a little bit of that with my own daughter. I would also start looking at all clean beauty products, things that have been third party tested. There's actually a website that I just found recently, and I think I'd have to look it up. I think it's called EWG, but you can look up. There is a website that grades products based on their sustainability, how clean their ingredients are, their processes, and their environmental impact, and it will give them a grade actually. So I would start with things like that. I had a little bit of hormonal acne last year, and ironically, I switched my soap to I got rid of pretty much anything that wasn't sort of basic stuff on the advice of the dermatologist, and I switched to Dove bar soap that costs 99 cents, is what she suggested, because it has very limited ingredients, and it's actually clean. I got the sensitive one, and that was pretty much all I needed, surprisingly. But yeah, I would look at clean ingredients and do a little bit of food elimination for the things that are pretty common for inflammation, which is usually dairy, gluten, and alcohol, typically.
Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate your
You're
help.
very welcome.
How can
Very
someone
welcome.
find you? How can someone reach out to you?
Sure. So my website isn't completely up yet, but you can find me on Instagram. It's my name. It's jana.r.renner. Pretty much everything gets pushed to there. So if you're looking for the podcast, you can also find it in stories there or find a link there. The link tree is in my bio for that and for the blog on Substack. So that would be the easiest way to find me.
Thanks so much, Janet, for coming. We'll put your
Thank
link
you for
below.
having me.
Send us the other link to that website you're mentioning.
Oh, yeah, I'll find it
Yeah,
for you. I think it's
and
EWG, but I'll find it for you.
we'll link that too. We'll put your Substack in there as well because I love your posts, your articles. Jana,
Thank
thanks so
you.
much for coming. We love having you. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you
You guys
so
have a great
much.
day.
You
Have
too.
a good weekend, too. Okay, bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye.